As the president rolled out a new immigration plan that prioritizes English-speaking people coming into the U.S., the White House sent one of its top policy advisors, Stephen Miller, to defend the proposal as all-American. But Miller bristled when reminded of what the Statue of Liberty has said to generations of immigrants. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. Aren't you trying to change what it means to be an immigrant coming into this country if you're telling them you have to speak English? Can't people learn how to speak English when they get here?
Well, first of all, right now, it's a requirement that to be naturalized, you have to speak English. So the notion that speaking English wouldn't be a part of our immigration systems would be actually very ahistorical. Secondly, I don't want to get off into a whole thing about history here, but the Statue of Liberty is a symbol of liberty enlightening the world. It's a symbol of American liberty lighting the world. The poem that you're referring to that was added later is not actually part of the original Statue of Liberty, but more fundamentally, the history. But more fundamentally,
you're saying
the
that
history
that does not represent.
I'm saying that.
What
I'm
the
saying that
country
the
has always
notion.
thought of
I'm saying the
as
notion that the.
immigration coming into this
I'm saying the
country?
notion.
Stephen, I'm sorry.
No,
that sounds
Jim,
like,
let me ask you a question.
That sounds like some national park revisionism. Are we just going to bring in people from Great Britain and Australia?
Jim, it's actually, I have to honestly say, I am shocked at your statement that you think that only people from Great Britain and Australia would know English. It's actually, it reveals your cosmopolitan bias to a shocking degree that in your mind, no, this is an amazing moment. And I just want to say.
It sounds like to you're trying to engineer the racial and ethnic flow of people into this country.
Jim, that is one of the most outrageous, insulting, ignorant, and foolish things you've ever said. And for you, that's still a really. The notion that you think that this is a racist bill is so wrong.
The president unveiled his immigration plan in front of the cameras.
Could you give us a comment, Mr. President, on the Russia sanctions, please?
But when it came to one of the biggest pieces of legislation of his administration, a Russia sanctions bill, Mr. Trump chose to remain behind closed doors. The president signed the measure, passed overwhelmingly in Congress, then protested in a statement that this legislation is significantly flawed, labeling portions that limit his ability to lift sanctions on Russia as clearly unconstitutional provisions. The president's response, one day after the White House conceded he weighed in on a misleading statement for his son about a meeting with a Russian attorney, struck some Republicans as over the top.
I'm kind of chuckling. That's such a Trumpian statement. The fact is, though, is that the legislative branch has a role in this. We're exerting that role.
The president was forced to swallow the sanctions bill as new questions are being raised about his credibility that boil down to his overall trustworthiness. Take what happened on Monday when he bragged that even the president of Mexico was praising his success in slowing unauthorized border crossings.
As you know, the border was a tremendous problem, and now close to 80% stoppage, and even the president of Mexico called me.
Problem is, the Mexican government says that call didn't happen, adding in a statement, President Enrique Peña Nieto has not been in recent communications via telephone with President Donald Trump.
Who the hell wants to speak about politics when I'm in front of the Boy Scouts, right?
Then there's the president's recent controversial speech to the Boy Scouts that he turned into a political rally. The president told the Wall Street Journal, I got a call from the head of the Boy Scouts saying it was the greatest speech that was ever made to them, and they were very thankful. But a Boy Scouts official told CNN there was no such call.
On Mexico, he was referencing the conversation that they had at the G20 summit, where they specifically talked about the issues that he referenced. In terms of the Boy Scouts, multiple members of the Boy Scout leadership following his speech there that day, congratulated him, praised him, and offered quite, I'm looking for the word, quite powerful compliments